The Lions have climbed out of the pit of despair, but that comes with new struggles fans just aren't used to. For my entire life, pretty much, the Lions have been a team every other fan base looks at and says, wow, that's pathetic. How do you waste Megatron's career? How do you have arguably your best quarterback in franchise history go away and he instantly wins a Super Bowl in his first year away from you guys? How are you that bad? How do you lead a franchise legend in Barry Sanders into early retirement? How do you let that happen? But now, this is a team everyone is looking up to and saying, we want to be like them. This Lions team, hopefully, will go ahead and completely change the reputation around this franchise. It seems a lot like they will at some point, and if they don't, that's going to be very, very disappointing. Fans look at this team and they say they want that. They want what Dan Campbell is building here. Organizations, owners, they look at it and say the same thing. That's why we now see two coordinators, not one, two coordinators get hired to be head coaches for other teams. If you told Lions fans that that would happen 10 years ago, they would faint. They would faint. They would have loved to have a coordinator they could truly rely on to make a unit elite. And they did, but they lost both of them. How can they bounce back? They lost Ben Johnson on the offensive side of the ball. They lost Aaron Glenn on the defensive side of the ball. On offense, they chose to go with John Morden, a former passing game coordinator for a Broncos offense under Sean Payton that was very similar in terms of how it operates down to down. West Coast style passing attack with a tough, physical, gap scheme and running game. That's what John Morden wants this team to be. Very efficient. A few yards at a time. Not huge chunk plays, but they will run some play action to try and get that. You might not be getting Ben Johnson's creativity, but hopefully you're able to get the down-to-down efficiency that you were able to get from the offense under Ben Johnson. Ball control offenses can put up huge numbers if you have explosive players, and the Lions have exactly that. Jameson Williams is a touchdown threat on any play. I mean, you give him the ball, whether it's on a slant, quick screen, whatever. He has the chance to take the ball to the house. His speed is one of one. Amon-Ra will be a reliable separator because of how nuanced of a route runner he is. He knows how to settle versus zone coverage. That is such a key trait for these chain-moving wide receivers such as himself. He can make all these impressive catches through contact too. A true demon over the middle. I mean, he is everything that you want in a slot receiver. And even though he's the best receiver on the team, they're going to put him in the slot because that's kind of what teams do sometimes with these elite receivers. We see the Cowboys do it with CeeDee Lamb. Some receivers are just most dangerous when they're in the slot. Amon-Ra is one of those guys because of what he could do over the middle and as a route runner. Sam Laporta is athletic, another guy who settles well versus zone. He's someone that you get the ball to. He can make some plays after the catch, but he could also be a very versatile weapon for you. You could line him up in the backfield, have him block a little bit. He could be an inline tight end. He could be a jumbo slot. He could play a lot of different roles for you. But I think the highlight of this offensive skills group is the running back room. Untackleable bulldozer in David Montgomery and an explosive, shifty receiving back in Jahmyr Gibbs. This is the best running back duo in the league right now. No one is doubting that. The combination of power and speed that you're able to get from both of these guys, and then the fact one is willing to embrace his role as that true space guy, while the other embraces his role as the true lower the shoulder and run through people guy, when they both have the ability to play both of those roles, it's really nice. These are two arguable top 10 running backs in the league. I think Jahmyr Gibbs, everyone agrees on it. I think David Montgomery, more people would agree on it if he got more volume. And then the best thing about it is you're putting an unbelievable offensive line in front of him. Yeah, they lost Frank Ragnow. And Kevin Zeitler was a huge loss too. But this is still a really good unit. Penei Sewell is one of the NFL's best offensive linemen. He mauls people. Taylor Decker consistently wins his matchup. And I trust the young guys, Ratledge, Mahogany on the interior, and Graham Glasgow has been there for a decent amount of time now. It should be really good. And I think the most important thing is that they keep the pocket clean so Jared Goff, their quarterback, can really play that point guard role, be the facilitator. I just listed tons of playmakers. All Jared Goff has to do is simply get the ball to them and let them work. Jared Goff is very good at doing exactly that. The issue can be when people start getting pressure on him, then he tends to make some mistakes. But when he's in a clean pocket, he's all good. That's why operating a quick passing game works so well for him, and that's why establishing the run game to slow down the rush also works really well. It's not rocket science to get this offense to work because of all the talent you have, and I trust John Morton too. Considering that he's a Sean Payton disciple, things should work well because the Sean Payton offense works really well with this group of guys. On the defensive side of the ball, they're also staying very similar to what they did in the past under Aaron Glenn. They were a very blitz-heavy team, very tenacious team. I mean, Aaron Glenn is a former player. Of course he's going to have the guys going. He's going to have them playing very ferocious football. But we say the same thing about Kelvin Sheppard. Kelvin Sheppard was a linebacker coach for Detroit since 2022, meaning the defensive scheme will probably remain the same. And he's also a former player, right? He played with Detroit. They are going to be aggressive. They're going to play a lot of tight man coverage, and they're often going to opt to blitz. That means you're going to be leaving corners on islands, which can be scary. But they were doing that last year, and when they were healthy, they were still very good defensively. The issue was when guys started to get hurt. Things started to look really, really bad. When guys are being asked to simply play on a guy, you're not going to be getting much help, just mirror this receiver, it's very difficult. It is going to be difficult. But Terrion Arnold is great at playing that style of football. Be physical with the wide receiver. Throw them off their route. Mess up their timing. And overall, this is a group of guys that can do that. DJ Reed, I think, can do the same thing. Then Anis Rakestraw and Amik Robertson are going to be fighting for that nickel corner spot. Both of them are true stay in the receiver's pocket type of corners. This is a great fit for that scheme. Will they get beat? Yes. And when they get beat, will there be big plays made? Absolutely. But they just have to hold up long enough for this pass rush to get to them. And let's not understate just how good this pass rush is, especially Aiden Hutchinson. He was going to break records last year. I mentioned the injuries. This was the biggest one for them. Aiden Hutchinson, in 5 games, had 7.5 sacks and a 22% pressure rate. That led the league, that 22%. He led the league in way more than just pressure rate, though. He led the league in sack rate. He led the league in hurry rate, QB hit rate, and QB knockdown rate. In 5 games, I know that's a small sample size, but he far and away separated himself from everyone else in the league. He was going on an insane run. And then you have DJ Reader and Aleem McNeil, who are both pure gap eaters. Pure gap eaters. And then you have depth behind them in case guys get injured like last year. You have Tyleik Williams. You have Josh Pascal. You have Mekhi Wingo. And then you have 2 linebackers that really tie this whole defensive unit together. Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone. Both of these guys fit the run extremely well. And when they get their arms on the ball carrier, the play is just over. And yeah, I mentioned I'm concerned about corners getting beat for big plays, but I do love the safeties here. I really do. Brian Branch isn't really going to be that last defense from a big play touchdown because he's going to be more in the box. Sometimes they use him as a nickel. But when he is up high, he's definitely going to make tackles. And Kirby Joseph is mainly going to be the guy that stays high on top of the defense, and he is a great cleanup guy. He hits really hard, really hard. You have a post going over the middle, that receiver better be able to catch through contact. It better be a tight end because Kirby Joseph will lay the wood. They also have some 4-3 versatility because the linebacker room is a lot deeper than just that duo. I love what the Lions have here from a personnel perspective. When they get beat, they're going to get beat big though. Okay, because they're running such a high-risk, high-reward defensive system with all the blitzes, all the man coverage on islands. But if your guys are good, you're going to be rewarded heavily. All right? Because if your guys are good, you're going to be blitzing, you're going to be sacking the quarterback. Your corners are going to hold up even against the best receivers because of how physical they are. Like, there's a world where this defense is dominant. It's just going to come down to the job of the coaching staff. And it's going to come down to whether or not these players can't just play good, play great, right? Offensively, I'm not worried. I think there's no world where that offense isn't good. Defensively, I think there's some great personnel here, but you are running a very risky scheme. If the corners are just average, if Aiden Hutchinson can't come back from that injury and be a stud, things can start to look a little bit worrying. But this should still be one of the top teams in the NFL. Let's see how they could do in a very competitive NFC North. Detroit's really good. No one's going to doubt that. But the NFC North is really competitive. So I have them finishing 11-6. Those divisional games are going to be tough. Every single one of them are going to be tough. But I still have them winning their first two, right? I think they're going to start off those first 2 weeks, have a couple tricks up their sleeves because no one's familiar with the coordinators. They're going to have their little tweaks to the system that's going to change things up a little bit. I don't think the Packers are going to be ready. I don't think the Bears are going to be ready for that type of thing. I think the Lions blitz-heavy type of defense is going to get to the Chicago a decent amount because I think Caleb needs to change how he approaches these blitz-heavy teams. And then I think Green Bay doesn't have these guys that can really separate too much from those great physical corners, right? So I'm leaning towards Detroit in both of those first two matchups. Then I think the Ravens are just going to beat them because they can change how they play. I think, yeah, you could blitz. You could get guys in the pocket, but Lamar Jackson is going to maneuver around you. And then I think Detroit might not be able to run too well against them. They still are built on the defensive front, not to get to the quarterback, but to stop the run, and then they rely on the secondary to stop the pass. I think the game being in Baltimore, I give that one to the Ravens. Then week 4, the Browns. They're the Browns. Like, there's always an upset any given Sunday. I get it. But it's week 4, man. I don't think they get upset that early, especially coming off of a loss. Yeah, I think Detroit wins that one. Then Cincinnati. We know this Detroit offense can score a lot, especially against a weak defense like the Bengals. They're going to run the ball. They're going to get that established. And then once they establish that, get the play action game working, they might score every drive, man. They might score every drive. But now I think there's going to be teams that have film on the new coordinators, and I think a team like the Chiefs is going to go ahead and expose them, right? They're going to use some unique motion to get guys open against man coverage, all these different rub routes to really get guys open in the short game. Rashee Rice getting some work after the catch, doing some damage in that way. I lean towards the Chiefs, especially in Arrowhead. Week 7, they're going to try and operate this quick passing game here. The Bucs are going to try and operate this quick passing game outside the numbers, but we talked about it. Detroit's secondary is going to be physical. They are going to throw off the timing of route concepts, and that's going to allow them to really slow down Tampa Bay and their passing attack. I think they're going to have to rely more on the run game here, which they have a very good rushing attack. I'm not saying it's bad, but I don't think it's one that you can lean on every play against a great run defense like Detroit, because everyone there is built to defend the run. I don't think they can win if you take away that passing attack. Not against this run defense. So I'm taking Detroit. Again, the game's in Motown. That's a big advantage. I do have Detroit losing off of their bye week, though. I just think the Vikings with J.J. McCarthy, yeah, they're going to try and scheme up ways to really get pressure on him, but this is going to be a game where Justin Jefferson, right, being the great receiver he is, you could try and throw him off his route. You could try and throw, I think they'll be able to really limit Jordan Addison, but TJ Hawkinson, right? Who's going to be overly physical with him? Justin Jefferson, yeah, you might beat him on some plays, but when he beats you, which he will get his get back, it'll be for a 40-yard touchdown. You know, I think, yeah, Detroit, they're coming off a bye, but the Vikings are coming off a mini bye. They'll have time to prepare here, too. I don't think they're going to be worn out. I think the Vikings win this one. I also think some of the disguised blitzes, some of the disguised coverages will get to Jared Goff. Jared Goff will make some mistakes. I'm taking the Vikings there. Then week 10 against Terry McLaurin and Washington. The defense might be one that doesn't match up too well against Detroit's offense, but I do think Jaden Daniels is going to extend some plays, and that'll allow for Terry McLaurin and all these other receivers, Deebo Samuel, to have more time to get open, and big plays are going to work off of that, right? Deebo Samuel breaks one tackle against man coverage without a high safety. That play's going all the way to the crib, right? I think this is one where Washington can really carve him up. Now, I think there's a chance where Detroit wins this one in dominant fashion, right? If Jaden Daniels isn't prepared for all the blitzes and he can't really improvise, he could get sacked a lot in this game because he holds the ball for a decent amount of time. But I think Washington's going to be able to win that one. Week 11, that one should be really, really fun. Really fun between the Eagles and Detroit. That should be an awesome game. I'm leaning a little bit towards Detroit, even though Philly's home here. I just think Detroit's coming off 2 losses after the bye week. They have to bounce back. Yeah, the Eagles are really good on the offensive line. Detroit's really good on the defensive line. Yeah, Philly's really good on the defensive line. Detroit's really good on the offensive line. These are going to be 2 teams kind of butting heads on the line of scrimmage, and it's going to be awesome to watch. And I think this is going to be a game where it comes down to the X's and O's. And yeah, it's 2 first-year coordinators. I understand that. And Vic Fangio is generational as a defensive coordinator. But I think the Lions do more on the offensive and defensive end that can really screw you up, right? And really change things on you. I think Kellen Moore has a little bit of that. I think Vic Fangio kind of just sticks to what he does. And he's just better at it than you are, okay? And I understand that, and it works when he's doing his quarter, half stuff. He's so great in quarter, half, what teams are able to beat it. But I don't think he's going to throw a curveball at you. I think Detroit has the ability to throw curveballs at you, and I think that's going to cause a narrow victory for Detroit. Week 12, the Giants aren't a team I'm taking overly seriously, and I don't think they can start getting upset much around here. So I think they're going to win that. I think coming off of the Philly win, maybe the Giants can catch them off guard, but I think Detroit doesn't start coasting until week 13, until week 14. I think week 14, Detroit is definitely the better team, right? Detroit's a better team than Dallas, right? But Dallas can score on you if you don't take them seriously enough. This could be a very big CeeDee Lamb game. This could be a very big CeeDee Lamb game. This could be a very big George Pickens game in theory. I think they could have really big days here. I think this is a team that wants to run the ball on you, and Detroit should be able to match that, right? They're going to be physical up front. But I also think there's no one here that's going to do too much on CeeDee Lamb because he's going to be lined up in the slot. He's going to be lined up in the slot. That means you can't be as physical with him. And CeeDee Lamb could go off for 200 yards here, and I think Dallas would win in that situation. Now, there's a world where Detroit just says, hey, you're really bad at defending the run. We're just going to pound the ball up your throat all game, and then Detroit definitely wins. But I think they might be overthinking it a little bit because they're underestimating Dallas. They start installing all these trick plays like Ben Johnson used to do. But I think after that, they can't get caught off guard again. I think they're going to win 4 straight games to end the year, including a great game against the Rams. And that's part of it, too. I think maybe Detroit might get caught looking ahead to the Rams. But I don't think Detroit's going to get upset again. I think they're going to beat the Rams. I think they're going to be a very good Vikings team. They're going to get their get back. After last time, Jared Goff got thrown off a little bit by them. I think Detroit's going to be ready. And I think Detroit is going to win against the Bears. I think Detroit's going to end the season really strong and really be feeling good heading into playoffs. Overall, I think they're a very, very good team that can do a lot of damage to a lot of teams in the playoffs. I'm excited to see what they could do. Thank you all again for watching. I'll see you next time.